here in the United States. As a nation, we aren't the only ones facing a downgrade. Cities across the U.S. being threatened, with 7,000 bonds targeted for possible downgrades. One city is facing this problem, Newark, New Jersey, and Adam Shapiro is there. Adam.
That's right, and it is not just Newark. It's cities across the country, Cheryl. Roughly 7,000 bonds, different municipal bonds, which were issued to help fund things like health care here in Newark, the hospital bond, as well as housing authority bonds. There were roughly 4 of those. The problem is that these bonds were de facto guaranteed by the U.S. government. So if the government's credit rating drops, the bond ratings for these municipalities and future lending would also drop, which would drive up the price, making it more expensive. The interest rates would go up for places like Newark to borrow in the future. This is already a community, like several others across the country, which is dealing with a very difficult fiscal situation. They have had to lay off police officers here. It's been a very controversial move, and this is a city that has been struggling to get back on top financially, even during the go-go years in the early part of the last decade. They were not able to get on top like other cities, so they're already behind the 8 ball, and now this is another threat facing them as they look towards the future. Cheryl?
And Adam, stay with me. And Jim, as you advise your clients, obviously a big piece of portfolios is going to be muni bonds. People like them because they're safe. What are you telling them now?
Well, I think the story still has a ways to be played out. But the fact is, at present, cities are slashing spending, cutting in an effort to try to balance their budgets. State lawmakers are being active to avoid bankruptcies and insolvency. And the fact is, default rates among munis has actually dropped. So while you're finding isolated incidents, there's no question that there is pressure on that market. From where I'm sitting right now, it might look like that the draconian scenario may actually be somewhat overhyped and overplayed. Okay. They can cut, you know, it's challenging, but they can actually lay off that police officer and lay off that teacher to help cut a budget. So not as bad as people think.
Well, maybe, John, real quick, maybe they can actually get their fiscal house in order. I mean, there's a positive spin to this.
And for obvious reasons of who I'm married to, I'm not going to discuss muni bonds. I'm going to let Meredith do that. But the problem you
wife is Meredith Whitney. Okay,
Mom is Meredith Whitney. She's made a call on muni bonds. I'll let her. She's the expert in this, not me. And I'll defer that to Jim and her to debate. But the problem you have is this great unknown. I don't think these politicians really know what's going to happen. You have Jamie Dimon, who's a great head, a great businessman, coming out saying this could be a catastrophe. And now you have these cities and these states. If they're downgraded just to AA, people don't have to sell these bonds by charter because they can only hold certain pensions, and insurance companies can only hold AAA bonds. I think Jim's right. I think the possibility of this happening is 0. But what if S&P or Moody's decides to go ahead and do this anyway? This could be, not for sure, nobody knows, it hadn't happened, a disaster scenario.
John Layfield speaking for himself, by the way. All right.
And we've had a reserve report, or a resource report by Netherland Sewell, one of the best resource auditors in the business, that show the potential for 6 billion barrels of oil. So we've done everything up to this point. We've got a drilling rig signed up. It's going to be moving next month to Guinea, and we'll start drilling in October.
There you go. More questions for you, sir.
Sure. Your company seems to have a really great international focus and has some great momentum. I guess my question is if you wouldn't mind commenting at all on maybe some of the U.S. regulations or the moratorium, de facto moratorium, and any thoughts on that, and maybe how it's helping or how it affects your business.
Well, it's ironic, but 2 years ago when we started planning this, we assumed that we would have trouble getting a drilling rig because West Africa was so hot, and also we'd be probably paying about $450,000 to $500,000 a day for a deepwater drilling rig. And because of the moratorium in the Gulf, rigs are far more available, and we actually signed a contract at $250,000 a day for the drilling rig. So the well costs have significantly dropped and the economics have increased. So
is that is that why you gave up your interest in Louisiana for all the oil and gas, platforms in Louisiana? That's why you walked away from that, basically?
Well, actually, that was sold before I became the head of Hyperdynamics.
Oh, okay. Okay. One more question for you before I let you go.
Mr. Leonard, first, congratulations. It looks like you guys have got a wonderful find down there, and it looks like the political process with the first Democratic-elected president in December of last year has subsided for now. It doesn't look like, from the balance sheet that I just pulled up on the internet, that you've got the money to develop this entire concession. So do you hope to prove this well first, because it's very expensive, as you say, and then are you going to raise money through some type of share issuance or through debt?
Well, that gets right to the heart of our strategy. Unlike a lot of independents that have farmed down to 25 or 30% interest before drilling. We've hung on to 77%. We raised about $150 million at the end of March, and we're going to go in drilling with a 77% interest, which to our shareholders will be a huge upside, because in terms of raising money or farming down, if you do it once you've found oil, it will be far more lucrative. So as some people call it a moonshot, it's a high risk, but it's an extremely high reward proposition.
But
and we'll find out
if it happens, yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, it's great. How's it comparing to the entire series then? You're saying it's doing better than the first half
Little
of this.
known to people, the very first film came in 2001 at $975 million in box office. Then it went down below $800 million by the third film, and then it's been slowly reclimbing. And the seventh film, that part one of The Hollows, was $955 million. This one, though, looks, Cheryl, like it is going to be the very first Potter film ever to break $1 billion. 3D revenue, that price premium there, helping out on that. This is the first 3D.
John Layfield, Time Warner, this good for them, do you think? Does this keep going?
This is huge for them. They're going to make license fees. They're going to make syndication fees. They're going to make so many fees off this for so many years because they own the property. Look, I just got a royalty check from the WWE. I hadn't been on TV 2.5 years from a video game I did 5 years ago. These guys are going to make money off this for the next
Time Warner
20
will.
Yes, Time Warner will. And a lot of the celebrities will, too. You know, you look at Gilligan's Island and some of these great franchises. These folks didn't. These guys will. This is going to be good for all of them concerned.
Okay, the actors can get their cut. What do you think, James?
Well, I actually read this morning that they've hired some grief counselors to console, or they're expecting an increase in business for the people that are upset that this franchise is coming to an end. And the truth is, it's not coming to an end. You look at the Trekkies, you look at things like Star Wars, franchises like these do not go away anytime soon.
I'm going to try and get into a theater this weekend, Dennis. I don't know. You got any connections for me?
You know what? I've tried to watch these films. I find them utterly incomprehensible. I'm not a member of the club, and they won't let me in. It's just too late.
No.
I'm not even going to try it.
Oh, Becky, do you read the books?
I don't read the books. They're like
Dennis?
1,600 pages or something.
They're
I prefer
amazing.
Dr. Seuss when you're tucking into bed to read to your kid.
Oh, Dennis. Oh, we're going to discuss this. I think I've already threatened to buy you the entire series.
Oh,
and I
please,
for
please,
sure am doing it. All right. Dennis Miller, media reporter, thank you very much. Jim Frischling, John Layfield. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.